of course, this is my CEO, so I'm a bit biased. We've got, really, I've known Keith for years and years and years, and, is really doing everything right. What I like most about Keith, I go to all of our meetings, and Keith really has a grasp of where this industry is and where this industry is going. It's just unfortunate I only have 10 minutes for each CEO to keep this event moving quickly and fast along. But let's go ahead and give a real round of applause to Keith Tibbles. Yes.
How does this work? Just this way or that way? Yeah. Okay, is it running? Okay, this is not my time, right? I mean, my time hasn't started yet, right? Okay, all right. Okay, so true story. I was really excited about coming to the event this week. Really proud of Steve for getting back into these events, and really proud to have him at Cobalt. So Tuesday, I was just tidying up some loose ends at the office, getting ready to bolt out to the airport and get on the flight to Vegas. And I got an email from Steve, and it said, "Dude, we don't have your PowerPoint for your speech." And I wasn't really surprised that Steve didn't have my PowerPoint for my speech, because I didn't know I was speaking. So obviously, we went into kind of crazy mode immediately, because I had about an hour, and to think about the things that I would like, if I was in you guys' shoes, that I'd like to hear from a CEO, because a CEO perspective is a little bit different sometimes than other perspectives in industry and loan originators or staff or whatever, or management. And so I want to talk a little bit about how I see our industry moving forward, and the trends that are likely going to be the forces of change in our industry, because it's going to be your industry, right? It's the industry that you guys are blazing trails and being career professionals in, and it's going to be important for you guys, I think, to get a perspective, at least where we think the lay of the land is going to be. So, first slide, just learning this. Industry trends, the Goldilocks zone. Does anybody know what that phrase means, Goldilocks zone, in astronomy or cosmology? Anybody? Goldilocks zone. Goldilocks zone is a phrase that is used to describe a planet that has an orbit around its sun that is not too far away to be too cold and not too close to the sun to be too hot. So that if it's in this Goldilocks zone, then hydrogen can combine with oxygen, liquid water can form, which is the basis of all life as we know it. And so it's a potentially habitable planet. So I think our industry is going to begin to see the emergence of Goldilocks companies. They're not, and I'll tell you what I think. First of all, I don't believe that the future of our industry is going to continue to see the role of the too big to fail institutions. Lots of different reasons why you could spend hours discussing it. Legal and reputation risks that they've been exposed to in the last several years, probably best illustrated by an enormously expensive settlement with the state's attorney generals recently because of their servicing issues. But beyond that, Basel III, which will begin to take effect in 2013, really changes the game from a capital perspective for large, too big to fail institutions and any regulated banks. And what Basel III does is it says you can have, mortgage banking can be a great business for you to be in as you acquire servicing rights and the MSR asset, which is mortgage servicing rights asset. But when that gets to a certain size, it's really not a good business for you anymore. And from a regulatory perspective, they believe it represents too much risk in an asset class. And so what it's going to cause is it's going to cause the large institutions that have dominated our industry for the last 30 years to stop participating as much as we've seen them. And so these big names that we've known for a long period of time are not going to have the appetite in the future that they've had in the past. And that is a terrific opportunity for everybody in the room. For independents, I don't know all of the companies that are represented in the room. I do know a lot of the owners in the back, and I have a ton of respect for a lot of the companies that are in this room. It's a tremendous opportunity for the independents and for mid-sized companies. The other dynamic that is very definitely going to take place is on the other side of that a pendulum is not too small to fail to pay. Capital in the housing finance supply chain, which is the supply chain that you guys operate in every day, at a policy level, the discussion is how much capital does it take? Small companies are going to have potentially a very difficult time with that. We're beginning to see the effects of policy with HUD, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac, increasing tangible net worth requirements. Those requirements are not going to get smaller. They're going to get bigger. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of very, very well-run small companies, but it's going to be incumbent upon those companies to grow, to get bigger. They will probably merge with others to get the requisite size. They will likely be acquired, so we'll see more M&A activity, and we're already beginning to see that. The challenges that they face are they're in the correspondent channel. Hardest channel, we've never had a more difficult time selling loans to the correspondent channel. You guys hear it from the owners of your companies, the executive management team. If you happen to know people who work in the back office who are actually trying to clear purchases of loans to the conduits, hardest time ever. And when B of A left the market in December, the second shoe dropped, and that was not only was it still continuing to be difficult, but it was also the prices really dropped off a cliff. And so the economic value that's being extracted out of small companies is really, really tremendous. It's going to be a really big challenge for them. So just the right size, the Goldilocks companies. I don't know really exactly what the right size is, but I do know what its characteristics look like. It is going to be a direct agency lender. It is going to have servicing. It is going to have to figure out the solutions to the capital challenges that retaining servicing represents. It's going to have to get big to a certain extent. Now, I'll tell you, that's a challenge for us because we kind of like being a company of a certain size. And we like the idea that we have a connectedness with our employees. But it'll be important for companies to grow, and one of the challenges that we'll face at Cobalt and others will face at theirs is how to remain connected with you, with everybody, and have the very same culture that we believe in and that we've built over the years. And so that's going to be a real challenge. I read a great article in Entrepreneur Magazine, this issue that's on the stands today, from Richard Branson, probably one of the great entrepreneurs of our time. And Branson faces the same challenge. He totally believes that small companies face the challenges of markets better than large companies, and that the connectedness of individuals working together is where problems get solved the most effectively. And so when his companies get to a certain size, he splits them up. If it's in an industry that you can achieve it, because some industries' size is really, really important. He obviously has an airline, the scale to that's really important. But other businesses, they break them up into smaller units, and they let them become more autonomous so that they can do those things. So that'll be a challenge in our industry. But for you guys, that's kind of an industry perspective. And I just wanted to, because we don't have a lot of time, I just wanted to give you 3 things that I think are super important for you guys to be thinking about. First of all, I think the future is going to be, the true success stories of the future are going to be written about great teams of originators choosing to work with great companies that believe in team building and have the right cultures. I think our industry went sideways when we disconnected the interests of origination with ownership. Today, I think moving forward, that connection is going to have to be much closer than it's been in the past. And what it means for you guys, from my perspective, is that it's going to be, you need to find a company that you believe has the culture and the leadership, the shared visions and the shared values that you are going to build your career on for the next 10 or 15 years. I think that those are the dynamics that we're going to see in our industry. We're not going to see nearly the transient nature of employment in mortgage lending moving forward. And I think that's a really positive thing for our industry. How many of you guys are Duke University fans? I'm a Duke University fan. I never went to Duke, but I tell you, I have tremendous admiration for that team, and Mike Krzyzewski, a legendary coach. When you watch Krzyzewski coach, when his team gets under stress, you look over at whether it's the fourth quarter or the team's making a run at him and they're falling behind. You look at Krzyzewski, and when Krzyzewski's talking to his team, he's doing this. He's got his fist in the air, and his fist in the air is not. He's not threatening his boys. He's not telling them, look, if you don't do this, I'm gonna, right? This is symbolic of a team philosophy that he builds in his team organizationally. He has 5 players on the court at all times, and he knows that they've all been great individual players all the way through their careers, right up until they get to the level that they're at. But he impresses upon them the fact that if they remain as individuals, any finger can be broken very, very easily. And then obviously you never want to punch something like this. But if they can come together as a team, they form a fist. They become powerful. And that's why the fist is really sort of a universal symbol of power. So I think teams are going to be very important, and it's something I would encourage you guys to seek out in the future. Controlled entrepreneurialism. This is our heritage. This is our legacy in our industry. Our industry has been built by tremendous entrepreneurs, many of whom are in this room. And I'll tell you, whenever I have a chance to speak here at a place like this, it's my first speaking engagement here, but we've got people in the audience today whose shoulders I feel like I stand on. I think Jeff Lake is one of them. I think Jim McMahon is another. Mary Durkin, Tom Fiddler, who's here. Tom. There's a lot of guys that we've built. A lot of entrepreneurial legacy on. So, moving forward, the problem with entrepreneurialism is if you can't harness it, it will destroy you. It's just like energy. If you can't harness energy, if you can't harness it into a turbine or into an engine or into a motor and put it to productive use, it's not very valuable. And that's true in nature. You can warm yourself up against it, but it dissipates quickly, so it has very little value. Our society, the reason why our society, industrialized society, has grown is because we've learned to harness energy. Entrepreneurial energy is a really, really critical thing to harness. We need it, but we got to make sure that it doesn't destroy us. Because it's kind of like harnessing an oxen to plow a field. You put the harness on him, he's going to move straight ahead. He's not going to move fast, but you're going to get a straight row, and he's really predictable. You take an entrepreneur, or take the zebra, harness the zebra, then go plow a field, right? Okay, you might actually till more soil, but I guarantee your rows are not going to be straight because he's crazy, right? And the problem with our industry today is that regulators have come along and they've placed landmines along the rows. And if you don't harness your entrepreneurial energy in your organizations, that zebra gets out and he gets going crazy. He's tilling all kinds of soil, man. He's moving all kinds of dirt. He steps on a landmine, it's game over. So that's going to be a real challenge. And finally, my last point is a call out to you guys. Every day, you guys should be thinking about the actions that you take to try to repair the reputation of the industry that you guys are in and that you serve. I'll tell you a story. In 2010, quickly, I had the privilege of serving as our state association's president, and the state of Washington was having tremendous budget issues, as many states are, and they're trying to find a way to close the gap, increase revenues, reduce costs. So what do? They go out and they survey consumer perceptions of industry, and they look for industries that have very low, that consumers don't like. Our industry came in second to big tobacco. Big tobacco. So I would leave that as a challenge to you guys. And I tell you what we do. Okay, I think the best way to do that is to get involved in your communities and give back. You don't have to give back overtly, right? You don't give them $1 and then spend $50 blowing your horn, right? You can't give it to them in secret because you actually do want people to know that you care. At Cobalt, we are the first corporate chapter for Dollars for Scholars in America, and the last 2 years we've given 53 scholarships to kids in our communities to help them get through college. We're really proud of that. It's something that's close to our heart. It's also something that's very sincere, but it doesn't mean we do it in secret. We do it appropriately in the light of day so that people know that we're giving back to our community. So that's a great way to do that. And so I would encourage you guys and challenge you guys to take up that banner. So that's all the time I have. Thank you very much.